Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us on this panel discussion to learn a little bit more about our people strategy at Sky and some of our activities. For those of you who were down in the room earlier, I talked about LIFT, which is our Women in Technology leadership programme that we run. So I'm going to ask all of the panellists to introduce themselves, and then we're happy to go through some questions that I've kind of put together for the panel, and then if time permits, we'll see if we've got time to have a discussion, seeing as it is a nice, small, intimate group with you all here as well. So, Sharon, could you introduce yourself?
I could introduce myself as Sharon Wallace, which sounds a lot more interesting than Sharon Wallace, but Sharon Wallace it is. And so I'm in a fortunate position to be able to say I'm the head of D&I Partnerships and Change in Sky in technology, and I absolutely love what I do. Events like this are just like food for my soul and food for my brain, and women in technology, women in leadership is just something that's very close to my heart and always has been for many, many years.
Thank you. Dianne.
Hi there everyone, I'm Dianne Cavanagh and I'm Director of Software Engineering at Sky. Like Sharon, I'm really excited to come to these events to listen to all the speakers, but also to give some information about what we do at Sky. So I've been at Sky for 15 years. I lead a team of around 400 professionals across delivery, analysis, engineering and test. And as we start going through the panel, I'll introduce you to my story, which is I'm Director of Software Engineering, but I have never been an engineer. So I am here leading the way for all of the other roles in software engineering that doesn't have to be a development role. I've got 2 young kids. One is dyslexia and dyspraxia, so I'm really keen on Sharon's D&I, and I help as much as I can with that because that's leading the way for my kids coming in the next generation, so really passionate about D&I as well.
Thank you. Vyshali.
Hi everyone, my name is Vyshali. I work as Head of Software Engineering at Sky, leading the digital service teams. I'm also the co-chair of the TECHWomen committee at Sky, and that's what I'm going to talk about in the next segment of the panel today. TECHWomen is a community of passionate women and male allies. We look at initiatives to attract, progress and retain the female talent. I have my wonderful co-chair somewhere in the audience, or I just saw her, Cheryl, and we together work on different strategies along with support from Sharon, and we have another chief sponsor, director sponsor called Alex Pride. So we all work together to work on different initiatives on how to help women progress and thrive in their careers at Sky.
Thanks, Vyshali. Dulcie.
Hi everyone, I'm Dulcie Omonubi. I'm the Head of Innovation in Sky Labs. So Sky Labs is a pretty small team, about 20 of us, and we work across the entire business, looking at how we, as we like to say, provoke progress using innovation tools, innovation techniques. And you know, Sky is, as you well know, a huge company doing lots of different things. So we take it upon ourselves to bring the outside in and to connect the dots. So across all of our colleagues in the business, but also with our parent company over in Comcast. And we have been working with Laura, with Sharon, on some of the initiatives around people and LIFT. And I'm looking forward to talking a bit more about what we've been doing and also our sort of take on things from an innovation perspective.
All right, thank you for the introduction. So, it's great to see everyone stepping up to really role model. And as leaders, female leaders in a really media and entertainment business, it's a complex landscape. So, Sharon, tell us really what are we doing from a people strategy perspective to really support that female leadership and growth?
Within Sky, our people strategy within technology is really a fundamental part of what we do. We're very conscious of the fact that a lot of the conversation is shifting from diversity, and now we're talking more about inclusion. That we can't just talk about diversity without talking about inclusion, and in fact we should probably be talking more about inclusion. Rose did a session in the other room earlier that I was along to, and she talked about the fact that she was saying the same thing, we need to talk more about inclusion. So with that in mind, our people strategy is about building a really good environment where everybody gets to thrive. Everybody gets to come along, find the opportunities, see the opportunities, step into the opportunities and really flourish with them. And the people strategy is about providing the pathways for that, providing the development opportunities, making sure the operating model as well is in the right place, looking at the partnerships that support and how we deliver all of that, how we recruit into all of that. So there's so many different angles to it, but not just thinking about the people strategy as recruitment or the number of people we need or how we train them. It's about that holistic view and making sure that we have that right. Within that then, where our Lift as We Climb programme sits, and also as well TECHWomen alongside that sits, we really want to support women who are progressing. We want to support women who have the ambition to move forward. Equally as well, support women who have the ambition to really thrive in role too, because it's not just about moving forward and progressing and getting to the next level. It's about really fulfilling, stepping into the role and owning your role, and then doing the lifting as we climb. How do we look around us and say, okay, I may not necessarily at this point want to move forward, but how do I turn around and see who's around me, who's behind me, who can I help lift and support and sponsor and mentor as well. A lot of the topics we've talked about today.
Yeah, there's been a lot of buzzwords around mentorship and
sponsorship.
Really, So Vyshali, can I throw over to you to really expand on that early year career that we help support within Sky for the kind of younger graduates coming through?
Yeah, so I think at Sky we have the graduate scheme that runs. There's Get Into Tech for attracting female talent into Sky, and then we have Returners program. There may be many more, but I'll focus on these are the key programs and which has helped me in building my team. So the grad program runs for the graduates. They come into the Sky. There's a lot of details on Sky intranet, but I won't go into how the program is run. But what happens is these grads get a rotation of different roles. During their program, they get to try out different roles. For example, a Scrum Master, maybe a technical analyst, or maybe a software developer or a SRE engineer. So this gives them that well-rounded experience of what roles are available in the software development and where they can make the biggest impact and choose that. So we have had many different grads coming into our team, and as a head of software engineering, recruitment is one of the key things in building high-performing team, and I always look forward to these young, passionate grads coming out of these teams. And just to give an example, there was 2 weeks back, there was a young grad who had joined from this program, and right now she is thriving so well in the company. Like, she was finalist in the Rising Star category of an industry award. So you can see that within 2-3 years of her career at Sky, or maybe in any other company that gives that opportunity for these young grads, they will be able to do a lot more. And I think we all have to look at giving that platform, that opportunity to these young grads. And Get Into Tech, this is for women especially who come from different backgrounds. So I know there are many people within our TECHWomen community who have been a journalist before they got into a technical role, or they have been a physical trainer. There was somebody who was running their own physical training program, and now they are like a Scrum Master leading a team of engineers. And there's always something about transferable skills that you can apply to your career in software development, and that's what we have to bank on and leverage and help drive. And yeah, Returners program, obviously, life happens, that people take career breaks, and this is not different to men or women, but we always should give that chance to people to come back and pick up from where they left, and it's all that opportunity that they need, I think.
So several different paths in, some of them structured, some of them unstructured. So Dianne, tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so my career path has not been the textbook career path. I didn't go to university. As I say, I've never been an engineer. And I started my career off the back of someone coming to my school assembly many years ago. I will not tell you how long. And she came to talk about how they had opportunities at a start-up. It was a bank, and it was the type of company that you could go into and work your way up and build your career. So I was interested in going and studying accounts and finance, but actually I decided, based on my situation, my mum worked in a bar, my dad was a lorry driver, I thought, actually, it's probably not the right thing for me to go to university. I'll end up with loads of debt. I'll work really hard, so let's just go and try this career and see if I can work my way up. So at that point, that's what I decided I was going to do. I was going to try and make it as far as I could, having not gone to university. So as I say, I started that career, and an opportunity came up. So I worked in the contact centre and back office. An opportunity then came up for a secondment into the test department, which I applied for, and I was successful. And I worked there for a few years, and it got to the point where I needed to wait for someone to leave to move on any further. And even then, there was a couple of people probably ahead of me. So I made the decision, I'm going to leave. And I decided I wanted to work for Sky. So that was the only job I applied for. I applied for a senior tester role in Sky, and that was 15 years ago. And I remember in that interview answering the question, what do you want to do in 5 years' time? And I said, I want to be a developer. I want to be doing development in your billing system, and that could bring back my account and finance interest that I had. So I'd be a developer. I absolutely do not want to manage people. That's the last thing I want to do. And I've already told you I now lead a team of 400 people, so that changed slightly. So I worked in tests for a good few years. I went on maternity leave, and during that maternity leave, I got a phone call to say there was an opportunity in project management, and is that something I'd be interested in when I came back? I'm the type of person that would just say, yes, I'll try it. I don't know if I'll be able to do it or not, but I'll give it my best shot. So I applied, got the job, and then fast forward a few years, I was then head of delivery, having moved into project management, never actually been a project manager. I was now managing all of the delivery team. From there, another opportunity came up to move in a sideways move into engineering. So again, I faced that conversation in my mind, how can I go and be head of engineering having never done that job? And whereas with project management, I did the job and I worked my way up, with engineering, I was going in at that head of level. But I said, yes, let's give it a go. So during that time, I led the agile transformation for that department. And I found actually not having done the job stood me in really good stead, because I then wasn't able to tell the people what to do. They were the experts, and I allowed them to have that autonomy and empowerment. And I think that's what's led to me being the leader that I am today, because I've not been able to do that. So I was head of engineering, then I ended up getting the delivery teams back, the test teams, the analysis teams. So actually I had a department of everyone that we needed to deliver software into a production environment. And then January this year, I got a promotion to Director of Software Engineering, where I then ended up with more teams. So that's been my career. I've sat in these seats earlier at the imposter syndrome session, because I deal with that every day. How can you be a Director of Software Engineering having never been an engineer? And what I would say is I self-reflect quite a bit in terms of where I've come from, what I've done, and that just helps me with that confidence. So it's reminding yourself of the path that you've come through to be where you are today. So that is my
So
career.
every time you've taken on a new area, have you like tried to do a deep dive and really like learn it to become a subject matter expert, or do you like it's quite a discipline to then kind of stay hands off almost?
What I've done is, so the one thing I always do is build great relationships where I can, build my network. So rather than go and try to learn it, so I've never learned Java. That's just not something that I'm going to do. But what I do is I build the network around my team, I build trust, I get them to tell me the pain points that they're facing, where can I help clear the path, and what can I do to help them. So that's probably the main things that I do when I start that new role.
Yeah, it's that important question of what can I do to help you?
Yes.
So I guess, Dulcie, that's where labs kind of has this great, as you said, this horizontal view. So how does it help enable our people strategy?
Yeah, so I sort of nodded to it earlier on, we work across the entire company. So we sit within technology, within transformation, but I don't think there's a single part of Sky we've not done something with, which means we do see what's going on everywhere. We see where there are common themes. We have a great network because of that. And when it comes to how we support the people strategy, so, and again, I didn't really explain earlier on, but there are 4 sort of, I suppose, buckets of what Sky Labs does for the business. One is ideation, where we help generate new ideas, tackling the big problems our colleagues have. The next is experimentation, so making it real, trying things out, proving things in as real an environment as possible. The third is inspiration, so mainly through our events, how can we bring the outside in and inspire our colleagues? Even within workshops, how are we bringing in experts, how are we bringing in competitive knowledge, how are we bringing new perspectives to what we do? And then the final thing is learning, and this is just teaching people how to do what we do. So that's a more recent addition. So in working with the team, working on things relating to people strategy, we've done some sessions that are either around, how to set the benchmark for things like hybrid working, but more recently we've been working specifically on Lift as we climb. So with Sharon, with Laura, to understand for senior women, what are the real challenges and what does progression, what does community look like at that level? Let me not hit that mic again. And we, really jumped into that. For me personally, it was a wonderful thing of being around for the research, but also, yes, please, how do we do this for myself, purely selfishly? And we got out there and we spoke to lots of women in the business. So for anything that we would naturally do within labs, the first thing is real insight, real first-hand insight. And so we did exactly the same thing here. Spoke to a lot of senior women to understand what's working, what's not working, what could be better. But also spoke to a lot of senior executives around what are you looking for? What do you really want? Where are the challenges from your perspective? And so what's that delta? And then what do we do? So lots of things that we expected to find from that, some things not so expected. I think for probably everyone here, some probably quite familiar themes around, well, as you go up the way and opportunities become fewer and fewer, do we know what our bosses are looking for? Are we clear on the traits or the behaviours that they actually want and what we need to progress? There was a real sentiment sometimes of, God, it's really hard. It's a bit of a fight to move on. So, the importance of networking and who you know, not just what you're doing, and how you kind of make that shift, that kind of mode shift from it's not just the stuff I'm doing and my outputs and outcomes, but it's also how I'm engaging and building. For anyone that was in Anne-Marie's talk, that my spheres of influence within the business. And then some really interesting stuff from senior executives as well around, it's not, you're a known quantity when you've been around for a while, and it's not just you versus the other people that are in the business, but it's you versus external candidates. So how can you make sure you're top of that list? How can you keep bringing something fresh to the table? So we did all this wonderful insight and then did a really great session where with a lot of women, I can't stop hitting the mic, I'm sorry, Luke. Where with a lot of other women at this level, we really brainstormed what that meant and therefore what we could do. And it's, led to new ideas and things that will be taken forward over the next while. So from a lab's perspective, it was really lovely to apply those kind of principles of understanding the problem through really talking to people and then working on the solutions with the people for whom it really affects the most. So yeah, it's an ongoing thing, but it's been a great experience so far.
And I think that's almost like where Sky Labs is in this role of your internal consultancy. Yeah. And I think that's where you're trying to gather it from an independent, pseudo-independent view. But I guess, Sharon, what are we then doing with that? And how does Left then kind of tie in with some of the other initiatives at Comcast and the wider view? So,
I being part of that experience with Labs was wonderful. I really, really enjoyed it. We did it together, and it was really excellent, co-creating something that was relevant to all the people that were involved in this. It wasn't just somebody in HR deciding on a program. This is something we were co-creating together, we were building together, and with the aspiration of it being something that we would all move forward with together and get behind. With that as well, what we can then do is, that's our internal piece, but how are we going to use that externally as well? So obviously you look after the external piece of it, I look after the internal piece of it. That externally, how can we leverage that external network as well with IBM and Vodafone as part of this kind of tripartite arrangement that we have, this initiative. But equally as well, so Sky, our parent company is Comcast, and the TECHWomen community that Vyshali and Cheryl co-chair, there's a Comcast element to that as well. There's a wider organisation, a community there, and how can we leverage that? How can we amplify what we're doing up the way, but equally as well draw from the learning that they can bring as well from. And Comcast is in America, it's worldwide. We've also been engaging with our Sky India, our partners in Sky India as well. We have a Sky office out there in Chennai, and yourself and Rich were out there recently, and attended the TECHWomen relaunch there. So there's so many opportunities, and I think that's something that women actually really bring to the table by the bucket load, is that willingness to collaborate, that willingness to come together and share and co-create and say, like, you know, and be more collegiate in moving things forward. And, you know, when I went back to uni there years ago, and a few years back, and did a business psychology masters, and they talk about these high tech, these kind of conceptual ideas of what good leadership looks like, and it's all there's so many of the qualities that women bring by nature, and it is that collaborative, those feminine traits that really do strengthen the leadership in an organisation. One of the comments somebody made earlier in another session I was at was talking about kind of the importance of that collaboration and how we can really leverage that to our strengths, and in that bringing along the allies in the room here and the allies in our organisations, and using collaboration to strengthen that argument about allyship, and using collaboration to bring together things like Lyft and TECHWomen and Comcast and India, and so there's many strands to it, I think, and there's a lot we can weave together for the greater good, in essence, which sounds a bit like...
Someone mentioned that this morning, talking about this competition and collaboration, which is, you know, when you go other companies, and we're working closely with Vodafone and IBM from an external perspective on this. So it's a challenge to get that balance right.
Yeah.
But it's the same. I think you can leverage a lot of outside-in views, as you said, Dulcie, like, so how do we do it? Can I just then pick up on the actual insights that we gained through this? I mean, I guess, Dulcie, how do we get the leadership, the exec and things, to be really open with us when they're sharing what they need? I guess that's just building trust with them.
Absolutely, building trust, but also I think the first thing is to make sure they understand why it's important and what they get out of it. You know, one thing that you always find when you're trying to get insight out of that level of person is they're really time poor. So you need to be able to really quickly, when you're framing the ask, be clear as to the impact of this whole thing. You know, we are trying to achieve something which will have massive benefits for staff retention, for progression, for ultimately for business outputs. The bottom line is always a place to go if you want to convince the exec. So be really clear about the overarching goal of the initiative, and therefore what their insight is going to do to help us get there. More likely than not, they'll be open to it. You might not have a huge amount of time with them. So really quickly get to the crux of the matter. Keep it short, keep it succinct. But I find that if you frame it in the right way, they are quite open. And one-to-ones, always one-to-ones, never groups, because then everyone is in a group, one-to-ones, and don't record it. Take notes.
Yeah. Okay. And how many times have you quoted the insights to other people?
Oh, I bore myself stupid. I'm constantly talking about the insights that we have found around the research in particular. Again, to the point as well, that what we're looking to do with Lyft is not something programmatic. Is we're trying to create an ecosystem, and that ecosystem is that if I want to progress and step ahead in my role, understanding that I will leave a space, and then looking behind me and saying, who can I help support, who can I help lift, who will then create that space. And if I'm doing that, and then those people are seeing me doing that, then they will do that to the people around them. So what we're doing is creating an ecosystem, and it's like a domino effect. And to bring about the environment that we want, it is about cultural change, and that it's creating programs and initiatives are great, but do they bring about cultural change? I think it's developing ecosystems that is the real crux to it, and that's, I think, what we're looking to do internally within Sky with Lyft.
Yeah, makes sense. And then Vyshali, the TECHWomen community is a part of that ecosystem. what are we seeing kind of through there where women are looking for extra support, and is there kind of some emerging themes?
Yeah. So basically, I in the beginning of this panel, I spoke about like what at Sky we are doing to attract the female talent, or talent in general. But what next, right? Like they are in your organization. You need to help them progress and then retain that talent which you have invested so much on. So what we have seen in TECHWomen, we conduct different surveys and periodic surveys, and also like you hear women coming to these committee meetings and sharing those thoughts and views. So there are two things that we primarily focus on. We have 4 work streams, but there are 2 key things which I'll talk about. One is about building that community of women. We talked about LIFT, which is probably the middle management, but then here in the TECHWomen we are talking about right from the entry level up until the manager level. They also need that equal amount of support, and we try to create initiatives to build that community of like-minded people, help them network, celebrate little achievements. Like we have 2 main events, like Women in Engineering Day in June, or Ada Lovelace Day in October. So, and then we have different sessions, or as a part of these we invite speakers to come and talk about different things. So that kind of helps create that community, that sense of belonging to the company, and also talks much about the values that Sky as a company stands for, that we are not just talking about these things, but we are actually doing something about creating that sense of belonging. The other thing is on the progression. I think women are as ambitious as men, and everybody wants to progress and thrive and grow in their career. So we have a work stream dedicated to progression at all levels. We have different sessions. For example, the first one I'll talk about is the career clinics. So it's the workshop-based sessions that we conduct in a safe space. We cover topics like negotiating, or how to build a great CV, or how to set your objectives for your PDP for the whole year, or how to be your authentic self. So these are the different skills you need to grow as a leader. So you may or may not get this experience in your day job, but I think just sitting in that session and listening to that, or tackling your imposter syndrome, I think these are very important in building those skills for these women. The next thing, which we have heard about a lot in the main hall, was about role modeling. That's where we have the Inspire sessions, where we get people from, mainly senior women leaders who come and talk about their personal journeys, like how, they've come from different backgrounds but have grown and thrived in their careers. And yeah, we don't just cover the directors or the heads of, but Sharon, you have done one. Laura, you're doing one for us. So we cover different aspects in that career progression Inspire sessions. And then we have something called Spotlight On sessions. So about the roles that are in the organization, but you don't know if you're the right fit for that job, or okay, you hear about a role in a different department, but you don't know what the culture in that department looks like. How do they work? Like, what does that role look like? So we have Spotlight On sessions where we invite a head of to come and talk about their department, and then they invite a cohort of like different roles within the department, and they come and just have a casual chat to people about what their department stands for, what's the culture like, what are the different roles available. And this is like an informal session where women get to chat to a head of, and just on that personal level, understand what the department is all about, whether it's of interesting career path for me. So I think we have a good turnout in all these events, and we try to have this regular cadence of these events, and at different points in time throughout the year we have these sessions, and we've had great feedback, and and I think this helps retain the talent as well. So for example, if somebody is looking for a new opportunity, you have these sessions to go and venture out different options at Sky.
Yeah, so it sounds a great way to build community, but also discover roles that are out there, which in that discovery you must build a lot of empathy as well for the other roles. So, and then Dianne, just want to pivot to you on our kind of mentoring schemes that we have as another buzzword that we've heard a lot of today around mentoring, but what are we doing in Sky?
Yeah, so there's lots of informal sessions where you could go and find your own mentor, but most recently we've introduced our circle mentoring scheme, which is focused on mid-level roles as well as some of the more senior roles where some of our people are looking to get into the more leadership role. So it's open to men and women, and it's been really successful. So as part, I'm a mentor for 4 people, where we get matched based on what my background is, based on what their background is, what they're looking for. And part of that is we'll have one-on-one sessions. I'll understand what they're looking for, where they need help, any advice that they might be looking for, and then we'll all come together as a group and we talk about different topics, and talk about some of the experiences I've had as well as the experiences they've had. So that's across all of Sky Tech, and as I say, it's open to men and women, and it's really successful. People are really excited about it. They are loving the fact that they're getting the opportunity to meet people outside of their department. So it's, and again, it's not someone that is their manager or someone within their department. It's creating a safe space for them to talk about what they're looking for, what's going on in their department or their team, and getting that advice where it's not necessarily right talking about what's happening in their department. So it's really good. And in terms of me being the mentor, it's interesting for me because you never actually know, are you hitting the mark?
Yeah.
Are you giving them some advice or inspiring them? Are you getting it right for them? So it's really interesting to go through that, but also some of the feedback that they give you to say, actually, this is really interesting. Some of the experiences that I've been through, they've found quite interesting as well. So it's really good and something that we're going to continue doing over the years.
And then it's not just our leadership team that are mentors, we're also running our kind of more like coaching circles within our lift as well that we're introducing.
Yeah, so that's something we're looking to introduce next year, for H1 next year. So I'm busy planning that one. I'll be writing some more on that on the train back up tomorrow, back up to Edinburgh. So we're setting up the Optima series in the new year, and we're getting an external coach in who will run sessions looking at 2 kind of aspects of it. So one will be around vertical development, so not just about learning skills, but learning about who you are as a person and how you operate, but equal as well practical pieces as well. So and a lot of this has been co-created, that's come out of the work we did in labs, suggestions from people as well. Simple things like, what does the CV look like of somebody the level above me? What does our CTOs, we're very fortunate we have a female CTO in Sky, and what does her CV look like, I wonder? And that would be a question I will be, because she's actually sitting at our table tonight. I will be asking for her CV for their use in this. So it's both the practical and also as well that vertical development piece. So there will be group sessions, an external group coach, but also as well using materials as well that we have in advance, so that people have a chance to prepare and come with some topics they want to discuss, and there'll be each session will be themed.
Okay, all right. So I'm conscious of time. It goes very fast when you're up here. Kind of then, what would your one, to close off, what would your one piece of advice be for organisations to really help grow their female leadership team? Like what's been the gem that's landed well for each of you female leaders? So Dulcie, can I start with you?
Okay, so I think my perspective is more understanding the problem. So one, it's about measuring what matters. It's hard to make change, but it's even harder when you don't know if you've made the change. So do you have a grasp of what data is available to you? What don't you have that you need to get? What do you need to put in place? So once you know better, you can do better. And I think with the doing, it's having a kind of spirit of experimentation. You can't make everything happen immediately. So how can you do smaller tests and hacks to start making that change and then scale? Don't wait to make lots of big bets. Like, make those changes in the pockets that you can and grow it from there. So measure what matters and experiment.
Great, thank you. Vyshali?
I would say support progression of women. I've touched upon earlier, but I'd like to share a stat from the McKinsey's Women in Workplace 2021 report. It said that the progression of women across the industry and all roles is lower than men, while for non-technical roles, it is like the ratio is for every 100 men that get promoted, 86 women get promoted, but in technical roles, the number drops to 52. So that's the scale of the problem you're dealing with, and this is up to the the level of a manager. That's your starting point where you get into the leadership role, right? So give the right opportunity to grow the skills, like what we're doing in a smaller scale in TECHWomen is grow the skills, but these coaching sessions, all those building those skills needed for leadership, and have the clear progression path, because like you said, I don't know what a CV of a director looks like. I really genuinely don't know. But having a clear set of career progression path, and also having a chance for women to know what do I need to do get into a particular role, and having that clear path is very important. And that supporting network, we talked about mentoring and sponsorship and all that. So yeah, I think these are quite important.
Yeah, a bit of a scary statistic, really.
Yeah.
Dianne?
So I'll share something with you in terms of when our previous CTO was leaving and handing over to Prasanna, our new CTO, and he was in Scotland in our office, and he was explaining to her, Prasanna, Scotland is great, it's diverse, we've got all these women in tech, you don't need to worry about them, they're so confident, they're just going for it, which was really interesting to hear that was his viewpoint. So my advice, and we do have lots of women in our department in Scotland, so we are all going for it. So my advice for my team would be to focus on the women's strengths, make their strengths stronger, give them the confidence from those strengths. I'm not going to call them weaknesses, they'll have areas of development, but if we make the strengths stronger, that's going to put them in a good light to step forward.
Good advice. Sharon?
So, thank you. You've lined what I want to say beautifully. So it's about stepping forward and stepping in, and many of the people here will have heard me say this before, but I think we're at a point now where, and I do think we're slowly coming towards a real kind of a momentum is building now, and I think we need to get behind that momentum, and instead of leaning in now, we need to step in, and that's as allies, that's as women in leadership, that's as women in technology, but it's not just a question of leaning into something, it's stepping into it and taking the actionable change. It's about being much more determined about it, it's being more intentional about it, and just trusting yourself. And that is, and I'll say that to people as allies, as well as to the women in the room as well. And be prepared to have those uncomfortable conversations. Just go for it. We'll make mistakes. I'm in D&I and I make mistakes all the time. And it's brilliant because that's where you have the best learning points. We're sitting up here as representatives of Sky, and what we're doing with regards to women in technology and women in leadership in Sky. We're not holding ourselves up and going, look at us. But we're not. Maybe that's just, no. I am teasing her. But no, that's, we don't have it right. Like, we are sitting here and we're delighted to have, I think we're currently at 25.6% females across tech. We are actually at 29.8% from our leadership population, which is brilliant because we have a target of 30. So we're very close to that. We're pretty much on the 30%. But I'm not prepared to sit in our laurels. We will drive this forward. Mm-hmm. We are pushing it forward. We want to be intentional about this. So yeah, I'm shut up now. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
As you see, very passionate leadership here within Sky's technology area. So listen, we're out of time, so I'm going to close it off before, yes. And for anyone that is interested from your organisational perspective to learn a little bit more about Lift, find one of us, come to our stand down the stairs. We obviously have a collaboration with other organisations as well, because we do value, as you say, that outside-in view. And I think we've all got something to learn, because it is an ecosystem that we don't want to just focus on within Sky. It is a whole ecosystem, and how we kind of bring more women into technology, not more women into Sky. So thank you, panellists.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Bang on time.
How I run all my projects.